I remember growing up and there was this little riddle that they used to say, they used to teach us as kids. And it goes like this: sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what girls are made of, right? Little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. And I've got 3 little girls. So I can assert that there's some sugar and some spice there. But that's not everything they're made of. As we'll find out. Sugar and spice and everything nice. All the nice things. That's what women are made of. Nothing bad, nothing gross, nothing icky, hairy, nasty. Just sugar and spice and nice stuff. And then the poem goes on to say that frogs and snails and puppy dog tails, that's what little boys are made of. Now that sounds like some sort of mystic stew cooked up by a witch. So you know that shit is backwards right away. Frogs and snails and puppy dog tails, that's what little boys are made of. Everything nice versus frogs. We're frogs. Just think about the manipulation that's associated with these little riddles, right? And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because if you watch Disney movies, you know what I'm talking about. Kiss that frog. Turn him into a prince. Our whole culture has been Disneyfied. I think Disney has been the greatest propaganda machine to turn the sexes against one another. To give the female this fairy tale, this fantasy about love. And, as we're going to talk about in a moment, women manipulate men, and men are easily manipulated. And we'll talk about why we're so easily manipulated. So you get a bunch of little girls walking around in princess gowns, thinking that everything's on Disney is true, that they're princesses, and that they got to kiss a frog to make a prince. Just think about that concept. Men, boys, puppy dog tails, snails, and frogs. Kiss a frog. That means the man is an ugly, wet, slimy beast. Not even fit to be a beast, a frog, a reptile. Right? Not even mammal, fucking frog. And the kiss, the sweet sugar and spice kiss, caress, and love of a woman will turn him into a prince. And that just, I mean, you think a little deeper, it just sounds retarded, because how's he going to learn how to be a prince when he was a frog? Is the woman going to teach him how to be a prince? Is that how it's going to happen? You're going to kiss this ugly frog and he's going to become exactly the kind of man you want. I can tell you right now, women don't know what kind of man they want. Men got to show them. They're instinctual. It goes by instinct, not logic. But what is that word when you get off track? I digress quite a bit. So we're going to get back on track here. And I'm going to assert that it's not true. Girls are not sugar and spice and everything nice. They poop, they bleed, they fuck, they stink. They do all the things men do. There are puppy dog tails there as well. So a little bit about my experience growing up with mostly boys. I grew up, the oldest of 3 boys. And my sister was the youngest. And it was tough for her because she grew up around all boys. And she was the youngest girl. And so she's a tough girl. So she was like one of the guys. I think it was challenging for her. But, in the neighborhood, I was the oldest boy, strongest boy. When it was time to pick teams for phys ed, I was always the captain of the football team. So I like to think of myself, especially when I was growing up, as king of the boys. And as a result, didn't have much experience with women except for mommy, my auntie, and school teachers. And so the major authority for most men, most American men, most Western men are not fathers. They're not men. They're mommy and school teachers, because we spend the majority of our time either at home with mommy, all right? And for me, it was my auntie also, because daddy's at work, or daddy's not in the home, or daddy's in jail, or daddy's not there. People say we live in a patriarchy, but I think it's a matriarchy. I'm very convinced we live in a matriarchy. So we've got, influence from mommy, and then you go to school, and something like 90% of school teachers are women. So this creates this, at least a sense in myself growing up, and I recognized it in me, of being addicted to the approval of women at an early age. Because, if they're your authorities, they're going to tell you how to be. And if you're not being that way, then you're a bad boy. And when you got women telling you how to be a good boy, they're using the female measuring stick. They're using what makes a good girl the measuring stick for a boy. In traditions past, I tend to be nostalgic about that. Who knows what the hell happened in the past? But the way it's presented, in traditions in the past, young little boys were groomed, trained, and taught how to be men by men. Go figure. But we've got the matriarchy, and we got the media telling men how to be men, and that's why we're so fucking confused in so many different ways. And a big part of the confusion comes from this needing approval from women. It starts with older women, and then it begins to creep into the realm of dating and dealing with young women. And so just to kind of go along my story a little bit, and how I got lost in this regard, I remember, and even well into my adulthood, seeking the validation and approval of women for no reason too. It wasn't even like, seeking it for sex. It was like, oh, this is a woman, I ought to be a good boy, or whatever man up phrases they use to that, which really mean be a good little girl with a penis. And so looking for validation from women, it's a bad place to be. We'll talk about it why. School, mother, media. And then I have to share that I became sexual at a very young age, around the age of 13. And I became addicted to the attention of little girls. Here I am, king of the hill, boys. I dominated on the football field, leader of the boys. But the minute a girl came around, I melted, and I got giddy, and I got weird. I remember myself in like 7th and 8th grade, being head over heels, and like girl after girl after girl. 31 flavors. It was like I had a new crush every week. And I became very ungrounded. I was a kid, I didn't know any better. But not only needing the approval, but also now needing the feels. Ooh, the emotion associated with it, right? Getting boners too as a kid. And so at a very early age, that neediness, it goes from this this needing of approval because you want to be a good boy, to this needing of approval for, oh, maybe she'll kiss me. Oh, maybe she'll touch me. Oh, daydreams, night dreams, fantasies about girls being sugar and spice and all that nice stuff. And so for a lot of young men, and I'm admitting for myself included, especially very early on when you start becoming sexual, all of your masculine grounding begins to crumble. And then it goes from needing approval to needing sex, needing the neediness, wanting, sensuality. Addiction to sensuality is a big issue in our culture. And men, we get trapped because it starts with sex, right? And if you don't have that self-possession, which I think is super critical for young men to learn, that's why I believe that promiscuity in young men is not a good idea. We'll talk to Rolo. Oh, my guest. I just let the cat out of the bag. It's this book right here. Those of you know, you'll see. He may have some different ideas about that. Of course, other people have different ideas about that. But I don't think promiscuity in young men is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to be out there jizzing and juking and putting your junk inside all these women. Because among other things is easy manipulation. Because what we think is love is lust. And it's very sensual. It's very physical emotion and sensuality. And just like addiction to crack, there's a physical dependence. And so there are all kinds of demons begin to arise, jealousy and fear, these kinds of things. So becoming very sexual at an early age. I'm not going to go too much into my story with my wife, but I am very grateful that that I met the woman that I would spend the rest of my life with. At that early age, I became addicted to her. But then my promiscuity and tendency for promiscuity began to decline. I no longer was seeking validation or sex from a lot of women because my needs were met. And that's neither here nor there. I'm not advocating for that, but I think there's a lot of benefit in my being with one woman for all these years. Saved me a whole lot of confusion and pain that I see young men going through.